this week's show, we talk about Spirit of Daytona winning at Mazda Raceway. We then talk about Grand Am and ALMS merging, and we finish the show up with the NASA Championships. Welcome to the Insider Report. Welcome to another episode of the Insiders Report. I'm Errol Tucker, your host of the show, and joining me in San Mateo, California, at the GoPro facility, Peter Keene. How you doing, Peter?
Excellent, guys. Beautiful day here at the GoPro facility. It's beautiful. Got the winning Corvette behind me, and it's been a great weekend out here in California.
Sounds good. And we have joining us in Germantown, Tennessee, I have to say a real trooper, 10 days out of open heart surgery, Jim Daniels. How you feeling, Jim?
I'm doing great. You know, I had it done in February, and I had some complications that I wasn't happy with. They cut me open again, so 43 with double open hearts. Who'd have thunk it?
Well,
wow. You're a trooper, man. We're glad to have you back here.
I'm glad to be here.
Some of those guys out there in the world would hope you get a third open heart surgery.
So, first of all, congratulations, Peter. You guys obviously did very well this past weekend.
Yeah, no, it was a great win for the Spirit of Daytona, G-Oil, GoPro Oakley Corvette, because it was stressful. We never knew. We took that splash of gas there at the end, and our telemetry was down, so it was a real guess. I mean, Bohal did a great job stabbing the thing with the 6 seconds of fuel, and we all gambled there, and the 99 car was really strong, and they waited we took our fuel early, they took their fuel late, and it worked out for us. So, Richard Westbrook and Antonio Garcia did a tremendous job. Those guys just flat put it on them. We had the speed, and then we also ended up with a strategy, so it really worked out well.
Well,
those two guys.
That penalty from the 99. How did that must have helped you, huh, Peter?
It helped us, but I'm telling you, Jim, that car was fast all day long. They were as fast or faster than us. We did get the fastest lap of the race, but I'll tell you that it was just scary. They were that good, and the way everybody else was kind of out to lunch, so it was really us two, battling there. And good Lord, whoever got a break, we both got ECR engines, so Troy told me afterwards that he was beating on our engine tuner, Kyle, that if the 99 gets better fuel mileage than us, then he was going to kick him in the rear end. So, it was just a duel. We're both fast, and that's just the way it was. So,
yeah.
Good deal. So, I have to say, that kind of leads us into our first topic, with the merger being announced. I'm going to throw it to each of you individually and get your thoughts, and as well as some inside information that I know you guys have kind of dug up from your various sources.
Right.
So I'll throw it to Peter since he's directly connected with one of those series. Peter, how are you feeling, and what do you read from this whole merger situation?
Well, I'm going to say, I know there's a lot of naysayers out there, but there's nothing but positive things that can happen from this. AMLS and Grand Am are working together to come up with a package that, is the best for sports car racing. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of give and take, and I think step one is to come up with the classes and the rule set and go from there. But honestly, everything I've heard is positive. There's rumors that there'll be a Daytona prototype and some type of LMP2, and then 2 GT classes. Of course, the great ALMS GT Corvettes will be there as well, and then a slower GT class. So I think there's only good things that can happen, and they don't want to keep us in the dark. They're supposedly going to be doing press releases at least once a month, so hopefully it's all positive.
So let me ask you. You know a lot about the engineering side of these things. You get into setting the rules for some of the club racing organizations. Is it possible to make those Daytona prototypes and those P2 cars compatible to run on track at the same time? What do you have to do to either step one up or step one down?
I think it's very possible to do that. The best question, according to our guys, the best question all weekend long was from Bill Wood, our colleague, you need to pick up 3 or 4 seconds in these Daytona prototypes, and the 3 choices are aero, tire, or more motor, and he goes, drivers always want more motor, so then what? So, I think there's, aero gets to be a little bit pricey, but, maybe you change the tire a little bit, add a little bit of motor to them, and all of a sudden that 3 and 4 seconds is easy. So, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I've heard it too released that LMP2 and Daytona Prototype would be the same class, and then I've also heard it as Daytona Prototype would go a little bit quicker than LMP2, and they'd be separate classes. So, I mean, let the guys work it out. Let's see what the deal is, and go from there.
Well, why couldn't LMP2 be faster than Daytona Prototype?
Oh, I don't know. Who wrote the check?
Well, let's face it. The name of the game is we got to get fan involvement, and
right.
the series has been fragmented. You've had technology and low car count on one hand, and spec type racing on the other hand, and really no clear leader except for one-off events like Daytona Sebring having clear leaders and the Petit Le Mans. So you add all this up, it's got to be a plus for the fan, and I think we got to be fan driven. And give the fans what they want, because the fragmentation of the two series is very distracting for a common fan. And then I think this allows a media attention too. Just think about this: we're going from having two different endurance series and some fragmentation, and then World Challenge being sprint series. Now the choice is real easy. If you want a sprint race, you got World Challenge. If you want endurance race, you're going to have this new series.
Exactly right. And
exactly.
So I think that's good.
Right. Well, and talking to the Grand Am marketing guys this weekend, I mean, they're pumped. I mean, look at, now we're going to go 24 hours to Daytona, 12 hours to Sebring. We got Petit Le Mans. I mean, we've got Road America on the schedule. I mean, it's good. It just puts road racing back together.
That's right.
I agree there, but to go back to what Jim was saying, I actually had a conversation with Scott Beauvais last week when we heard that this announcement might be coming out. And I wanted to get his thoughts, and his thoughts was, now he feels it's a plus because just as Jim said, you have your endurance series now, and you have your sprint series, so it kind of makes it cut and dry for the fan. And
think of this, just at Laguna, let's use your race weekend this weekend, Peter. You have an ALMS race there separate from the Grand Am race. So no matter how you slice and dice it, you got an open weekend for series like World Challenge to negotiate and maybe move from that third tier of a support race to a primary support race. So,
I'll throw this at you, Jim. So I was at the NASA Championships this past weekend, and we were in the media center, so therefore there was a lot of media folks there, from various media outlets, and we were just having our little conversation. And somebody brought up a good point that between Grand Am and ALMS, they already have so many of their own lower support series that they literally can come and put on their own show, and no one else needs to come. So now you have the Porsche Cup there, you have the Lights series, you have the Continental Challenge series. So you have all these different series that literally you can have a whole weekend of nothing but sports car racing.
And
that's very true.
And that's one of the things we also talked about is that, I mean, this is just going to help the Continental Series. I mean, they're already huge fields. I mean, it's just going to bring more cries to run that series as well.
What's the most striking thing to me of this whole deal is really it's going to be good for the fans. There's going to be a hit and miss with some of the teams. I'd hate to be a team that just purchased new cars and has a program going and there's a lot of unknown. Not that it won't work itself out. It's just you got a whole year of limbo, which makes it a tough sell with sponsors and committing to crew people and things like that. But the most impressive part of this whole deal was the secrecy that was maintained. There was virtually no leaks about this up until a week ago anywhere, and that was the most impressive part of all of this, which makes me, it's hard to keep a secret in racing. It makes me think that somewhere along the line in the last 2 weeks, this came about pretty sudden.
I think you're long on this one, Tucker.
I'm sorry?
I said I think you're long on this segment.
I think so too. As a matter of fact, I was just about to jump in and ask you guys if we could continue this in the next break. So with that being said, we're going to go to break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this because I think the fans really want to hear it. Excellent. We'll be right back. Welcome to another episode of Racing No Filter. Joining me in sunny California, Bill Wood, and down in sunny Florida, Peter Keene.
we're going to take a look at some of the products HPD has created for the 2012 Honda Civic, and specifically, we're going to show you how to install an adjustable sway bar.
Until then, folks out there, you take care.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new GoRacingTV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to the Insiders. So before we went to break, we were talking about the whole merger between Grand Am and ALMS, and this is a hot topic, so we wanted to talk a little bit more about this. So, Jim, I understand that you actually had some in-depth conversations with some of the team owners over at World Challenge to once again get their take on this, because in a way, this really affects them. What were you hearing on that side of things?
Yeah, nothing but positives. Of course, everyone is sports car racing fans, so as a fan, all of us got to love this move.
Right.
But specifically, there are some very good points, and that is now all of a sudden you're negotiating with tracks. I think the person that's the most concerned here is tracks. No matter how you slice and dice it, tracks just lost dates.
Right.
And so without some fancy organization of some of these lower series to have standalone weekends, and whether that manifests or not, right now I'd want to be a series as opposed to a track during this deal for the negotiating part of it. So they think that they're in a great position to negotiate tracks, and more importantly to step up in stature with some of these venues to fill the slots. The natural progression of this consolidation is going to take a few events away, which might be now become marquee and larger market potential events for World Challenge. So that's some of the main things that I've seen from them on that.
Got you. So with that in mind, let me ask you, Peter, and I think we may have even had a few conversations offline about this.
Right.
What tracks do you think possibly lose out as a result of this? In reference to, the tracks that may have had both Grand Am and ALMS dates that possibly might lose out as a result of this merger. Got
to be Middle Howe.
Well, I mean, honestly, as Peter Keene, a race fan, not as part of Spirit of Daytona or anything like that, I got to say that, I'm sure New Jersey's in trouble. Homestead's already, I think I've already heard that Homestead's gone. I think you could it's going to hurt Mid-Ohio. I think you could run one date there. But, I mean, it's the tracks I'm excited about the tracks that we pick up, Sebring and
Atlanta.
And Road Atlanta.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, it's a tough one. But, if we just all get stronger and, you have more successful dates, then, maybe that's the way the tracks make it up. It's just a lot more popular event. And I think that's what it's going to do.
Yeah, one thing I have to say is that, I'm a fan of the merger. I think it helps sports car racing. We have on this show ourselves asked the question many times,
right.
Can road racing sustain, sports car racing sustain three series?
And Earl, the other thing I think, we talked about it at dinner the other night. I don't know that 12 weekends is going to be enough. I don't know that they could get it done. I mean, I think it's going to be more 14, 15, 16 weekends, and then, then it kind of all shakes out. But, it's going to be tough. Plus, you're going to have to take off essentially the month of June to let the guys that want to run Le Mans to run Le Mans.
And then there's one other dynamic,
that's still
too.
A key factor.
That's right. And there's one other dynamic. Right. Now you have NASA club owners, individual franchisees. They're wringing their hands. These guys have been starving for more dates anyway. We may be looking at this wrong. This may be the best thing that can happen. Maybe these tracks can generate more revenue by now taking in more of those track day events and those bread and butter events that they get from NASA and HPD and SCCA. So I know, talking with Steve Bottom over there at Racer Magazine, this has got a lot of hype and buzz. And you think about it, this got to be good for teams, Peter, because before you had, let's say,
I agree.
Let's say we have more car count. All right, let's just for argument's sake, we have more car count. We're not going to double it. It's not going to be all Grand Am cars and all ALMS show up at a race. So you're going to have more total cars in a given event, but you're going to have less total cars in two separate series. So, this makes the sponsorship hunt slim, great pickings. You got less people bidding for the same space on those cars. So I think guys who sell, this is a win for guys who sell advertising on sports cars.
Well, that's why we're at GoPro. GoPro is a great partner of ours at Spirit of Daytona, so that's why we're here today to, have a little lunch and show them the car that won here. So, anyway,
great company.
But you're right, Jim. I agree with you. There you go.
All right, guys, and with that note, we're going to take a quick break and go right to actually one of our partners, GoPro, and go right to one of their commercials. But when we come back from that, then we'll talk a little bit about some things that are happening in club racing. We just had the NASA Championships. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Insiders. So we have so much information to talk about this week. We're going to jump really quickly to just talk about the NASA Championships. It was a great event. We were out there doing some filming for Mazda, and you guys have probably seen some of the social media, small little videos that we did with some of the Mazda drivers. But it was a great event, guys. I have to say, NASA really put on a good show this their last go-round here in Mid-Ohio.
I'd like to give a shout-out to...
Well, they're getting the hang of it.
I'd like to give a shout-out to my buddy David Panterick. He won in his Viper, and David's a super good guy and a good man for road racing.
I want to give a shout-out to all the competitors because, by and large, most everyone wasn't beating their drum on winning until they got through with tech.
Cool.
I've seen an unprecedented number of people saying, okay, we're through tech, we are the winner. And, just people being respectful and courteous to the whole system of becoming a real champion.
That's excellent.
Yep. Well, I ran into one of our friends who was head of tech for the Spec Miata class, Mike Collins. He was there, and he put some of those guys through their paces, and it was good to see that all of the top 3 Spec Miata guys passed tech with flying colors. So that was really good to see that happen in that class. And I have to say, my hero of the weekend was Emilio Cervantes from Lake Forest, California. He was there with what I want to call a super Miata. He competed in the PTC class, and he had a rocket underneath him. And I want to say he even set the record for that class because he competed in the time trial element as well, and I want to say he set a new time record in that car.
He did.
So,
he broke my track record from multiple years ago in the RX-8. He sure did. Did an awesome job.
Excellent.
Yep. And,
there's more than just those normal news. We had some Ford Mustang news that came. That's relevant to past segments that we did, shows that came out of this event. Whenever we get ready to talk about.
Yeah, I think let's go.
Oh, exactly.
What was interesting to find out, Mark Wilson relayed information to Scott Beauvais. There's two things that was the main reason those Mustangs parked it. They complained about their engines overheating, and that was what caused blown motors, and of course about their performance being off. Mark Wilson at Ford has done his independent testing, reported back to Scott Beauvais, and I can quote all of these guys. I'll give him permission to quote them. The 8 millimeters difference in plate made 11 horsepower difference, and 0 indication that any heat soaking or heat issues could have occurred based on the restrictor plate. So World Challenge did everything right on this one. They gave those guys that bigger plate that next race. Now Ford has confirmed that that protest and those guys parking those cars was really a bunch of hogwash, like Peter and I called it.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that was pretty, a lot of drama at Mid-Ohio back at the World Challenge race, and so it was good to hear that they did their homework to see exactly what needed to be done, if anything needed to be done, and they had it right the first time.
Excellent. That's good.
And on that World Challenge, I know we're running out of time here, but keep it tuned for future shows. A lot of exciting news coming out of World Challenge that we don't have time to report on now, but we'll be plugging into to future shows.
That's all right.
Peter, sorry about that.
One thing is that I spoke to Beauvais, and they're going to be announcing their schedule in October, and we're actually going to have Scott Beauvais as a guest on the show so he can talk a little bit about what happened this year, what they have in store for next year. Excellent. So that's something to look forward to in future shows.
All right, excellent.
Peter?
Is it time for me to steal a show? First of all, I put a new motor.
Yes, it
time
is.
for
I
you.
put a new motor in my ST Light car, and it was 20 horsepower less than the one sitting on the garage, so I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Oh.
So I'm leaving Friday for the runoffs. I don't know if we'll be bolting motors in it in the trailer on the way up there or what, but anyway, that's in Irish Mike's hands. Hopefully he gets that straightened out. Then I got a funny story from yesterday. I spot from our four-wheeler up on top of the hill, with the corkscrew to my back, and so I'm sitting up there minding my own affair. We're probably 5 or 6 laps in, and next thing a policeman rides up next to me on a motorcycle and tells me that he's going to arrest me because you're not allowed to have motor vehicles up on the hill. And so after we talked for about 5 or 6 minutes, and I was fighting with him that I was a poor old cripple and I had to spot for our team or whatever, he finally escorted me off the hill. So luckily they got me back up there in a snuck me back up there in a golf cart, and we finished the race. But well, I told Troy what was going on.
They're serious about that.
I told Troy what was going on the crew side. So then when Westbrook finally got into traffic, Troy goes, "We got no spotter." So Westbrook wasn't real happy. So when I got back on the radio, I'm like, "The spotter's back." And Westbrook says, "Where the F have you been?" And I said, "I got arrested." And that was the end of that conversation. But he didn't believe me until after dinner. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I got escorted off the hill by a damn cop." And they wanted to give me a $275 fine for not wearing a helmet. So out here, these parks people out here in California,
my goodness.
Wow.
are
Hey,
serious.
related to that event, it's worth giving Wayne Nonamaker a shout out for winning that race. They're moving over to your class next year. Great bunch of guys raced against them back in the Motorola Cup days, and congratulations, Wayne. You guys did outstanding.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because I saw Katie afterwards and got a big hug from Katie. And I mean, they've stepped up their program, and hopefully they do good next year in DP. And that's the other thing I wanted to report is I think there's going to be at least 15 DP cars for 2013. So that's growing as well. So that's excellent.
That's great.
Good deal. All right, gentlemen, that's going to end our show for this week. Thanks for joining me as per usual. Peter, get back home safe.
Thanks,
and Jim,
guys.
you try to rest up for the next show. Folks out there, remember, as always, you can always tune in to Go Racing TV for all of your club racing and Pro-Am needs. We have all of the top races from this side of the pond and from the UK. So check some of those out. Until next time, you take care.